1051, I'm on scene. I'll be assuming Caroline Street Command. I got a 2.5-story wood occupied multiple dwelling. I got heavy fire from the second floor, Charlie side. I have an exposure on the Delta side. We have one line stretch not in operation yet. Primary searches are underway. Status of the fire is doubtful. One passing command. I'm on the first line. Service speed advised. We're on scene. 2-story wood frame. I got heavy fire from the Alpha side.
Welcome back, fans of the Volley Chief. David Lenart here. New episode coming in. I got a very special guest. We've kind of become, I'd say, partners in the past several months out of just a circumstance. So before we start, I think I should probably throw props out there to John Plofkin, Chief Plofkin, because he's the guy that introduced us. So I'm going to turn it over to our guest and let him introduce himself.
What's happening, Dave? Good evening, Chief. A.B. Terren here, coming in you live from Middlesex County. Pleasure to be here. Been looking forward to this. It's been a long time coming, especially since we started networking together for your upcoming event. I'm looking forward to the interview. I'm looking forward to November as Jeremy Donch takes over Derby, and we start to do some really good things for your Storm Ambulance Company. Hopefully, raise some good funding.
Absolutely, and AB, you're the founder of Hops Halligans. So tell us a little bit about that.
Hops Halligans, it took off. It was a small brainchild of mine. Awake one night on a 24-hour tour, couldn't sleep, and I've told the story a few times to other people, so I apologize if anybody's already heard this, but I travel everywhere. Education, I'm taking it, and I don't mind doing it, and quite frankly, I like going out of state, especially out of the area. You start getting different perspectives and different views, and you kind of bring it back, and you can kind of convert it into your own staffing or your own geographical area and so forth. But I said, why am I constantly going to Maine and New Hampshire and Mass and Rhode Island when I can do it right in my backyard? And I had this crazy idea, and I wanted to host a thing. It was going to be called. It had something to do with it was more of a Halligan hook, a roof hook, and it was supposed to be bringing in Truck Tactics LLC, Nick Esposito, who, fortunately for me now, is Hops Halligans alumni. We sold out an event in Charlton, Mass. This past February at Treehouse Brewery, but kind of revamped it a little bit, and ended up getting RJ from Capital Fire, Frederick County, Maryland, and his boy Charles Henry. They came up, they did the inaugural one over at Concentric Brewery in Portland, and it just took off. Went out on a whim, put it out there, started getting some vendors, getting some sponsors, and ticket sales just started flowing. And at that point in time, I said, wow, this is going to be a success. And within a day or two after the event, which ultimately was a huge success, we ended up raising $2,000 for the Craniofacial Special Purpose Fund out of the Connecticut Children's Hospital, which over time, from a relationship that I've established with another firefighter, it helps benefit someone in his family. So to me right now, it's near and dear, and I'll do anything I can for that cause. We packed a place with 100 people. We raised $2,000. Everybody left there with education, a full belly, and a night of quality beer. And from there, it just kind of took off. A lot of people inquiring, how can I present? How can I get on board? Can I get another event going on? And from there, we just kept selling them out, selling them out, selling them out. And, honestly, it's technology. It's today's day and age with social media. And, I don't have to just rely on that one presenter from the next town over, that one vendor from the next town over, and so forth. We've had people from Texas, Pennsylvania, Carolina, all New England states. We're getting vendors and sponsors from everywhere because of the power of the internet. And, they're willing to take a chance on us by putting their name on it, and vice versa. We're putting theirs on ours. And in the end, it's helping all of us become a little bit more successful. Every sponsor and vendor is firefighter owned and operated. It's not just about bringing training and education to the area. It's not just about trying to raise some funding for a charitable cause. It's also trying to boost our other brothers up that are doing their own thing. They've got a mission. They've got something that they want to do, whether it's selling swag or inventing a tool and promoting it. Whatever it is, it's their baby. And if they're willing to believe in me, I'm going to believe in them. And it's been beautiful. I mean, let's see, we did Hops and Halligans, the inaugural one, that was Capital Fire. Hops and Halligans 2.0, another huge success. We brought in some guys from Providence, Rhode Island, the Ocean State, Danny Rinaldi and Brian Bellhumer. Following that, we had Hops and Halligans, the Northeast Experience. We had some guys from Northeast Squad Concepts, a couple really good firemen from New Haven, Josh Miller and Jason Rivera. Following that, we actually did a quick raffle for the holidays again for CCMC. We wanted to raise some money for those kids. Fred Malvin donated a Halligan bar, a solid one-piece handcrafted Halligan bar. We raffled it off, and 100% of the proceeds went directly to procuring toys for them, specifically the kids from the craniofacial wing. And we wanted to help supplement and offset the Christmas for them. And it's unfortunate. It's easy to say it on the outside, like, some people have a hardship. I get it. Well, no, until you're spending the holidays away from home with your children in a hospital setting, you don't get it. So I'm blessed and fortunate. Even if I'm out on a 24-hour tour for the holiday, I still know that when I get off, I'm coming home and I'm having it with my kids. I'll do anything I can to make it better for them and make it seem a little bit less stressful. And if that means helping them curb the costs on getting toys or whatever, I'm on board, Um, After that, that was another huge success. The winter came. We ended up having the event in Charlton with Nick Esposito again. Solid evening. And ended up bringing up vendors from 3 different states for that, which was pretty cool. We just shut out Concentric again this past April with Ray McCormick. Phenomenal. I mean, beyond blessed to meet this. This I wrote the gospel for the engine company, and out of New York. Um, that brought in such a peculiar crowd. We've had people buying tickets from Canada, Toledo, Ohio, all New England states with the exception of Vermont, which seems to be a trend. We're looking up next month, actually a month from now, June 11th. We got Mark Gregory coming in. He's going to do a phenomenal RIP presentation, and then the idea originally was to close out the year with the boss of Brockton, Brian Nardelli, and doing a nice lecture on downtown USA. Your everyday taxpayers and stuff. And then that's where you and I met, and we're actually going to close out the year in Derby. I say, getting dirty in Derby is how we're going to end it. But we got Jeremy Donch coming from National Fire Radio, and that right there is it's gonna sell out. It's gonna be a phenomenal evening of networking, brotherhood, camaraderie, and hopefully in the end we're able to do some really positive stuff to help offset some of the costs for the Storm Ambulance Company, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, we were the Storms guys. We were looking to do some kind of event, like a training seminar, something to help with our 75th anniversary. And like I said, I'm probably one of the most coincidental things that's ever happened to me is we started planning it out and we talked about like what you were doing. And again, my phone rang. It was my good friend, Chief Plotkin there, and he was like, "Hey, do you know this guy? Because he's trying to get into Bad Sons." And I right, we had the date pretty much booked already, and it was it worked out perfect. That's how we met. It was actually funny when we first talked. We didn't realize each other's social media prowess and who we were, and you invited me up to check out the event in Charlton up there to see Nick and speak. And what was even funny was you didn't even know at that time that I was on the job in Bridgeport. And
No, not at all.
it was right. It was funny because you're like, "Oh, we got Nick Esposito coming up." I'm like, "Oh, he's my boss." And he so we went up and it was a phenomenal night. A couple of us took a ride up. As a matter of fact, the guy Mike that we were talking about earlier, good friend of the show, he's my first guest pigeon. He was with me, and then buddy, we went up. We took a ride up to Massachusetts up there to which brewery was that?
Treehouse.
Treehouse Brewery, and we when we got there, we were floored. The parking lot was full. There was people. I mean, it was just it was a great event, and great time.
Every event out. It's
Yeah,
there's a demand for it. Guys, and the thing is, everyone there wants to be there. Like
right.
we're not mandating and getting guys forced there from their departments. Those parking lots are full because people generally give a shit about the job. They want to better themselves. They want to better the job. They care about the cause. But at the end of the day, like these are the guys you want to surround yourselves with. I will be happy to spend 3 hours at a bar with any fireman that wants to talk shop. You know,
Yeah, and that's
be
what,
around that the next
it's,
day, sure.
I always say it's funny because like I grew up, my grandfather, we went every year to the International Fire Chief Show. And it was the same thing, right? It was different cities every year, but we went with him and you had all the vendors, you had a couple you had the breakout sessions, but that model, I mean, it still persists today, but you've kind of made an evolution of it. I mean, you think about it, right? Like, what do we like to do as firefighters, right? A lot of us do like that. That's a camaraderie building event where we go, we go to a bar, you hang out, you have a few drinks, and you brought kind of the two of them together in a way that nobody really had before, and you could see the success of that. I mean, again, I've been the one, and I was very impressed with it. It was a great time.
Appreciate it.
It just happened to obviously by coincidence be a guy who at that point I'd heard his spiel as much as he's heard mine. Uh, but it was just a very, very impressive event, and I think you're gonna do good with this, and I'm excited for our collaboration, if you will, coming up. It's going to be the one of the final events of our 75th anniversary celebration here for the Ambulance Corps. About 2 weeks after that, we have our annual Fireman's Ball. So that'll be the final event. Is we actually have our dress up ball at the end of the year.
Don't forget to add it
We
though. Prior, you have the road race coming up in July.
right. We have
Register.
the I got there. You're doing a better job of promoting than me, but right, we have the road race coming up. We already did a couple events ourselves. We had a couple celebratory dinners, some things like that. You mentioned the road race. We're very excited. We just hit we've surpassed our 100th registered runner. So I reached out to her. We got a little swag bag to send to her, and
Nice.
that was a big milestone. And it's one of the things, right, when you put an event together, and there's it's very few of us out there in the world who know these events. When you try to do this, you just worry because you're like, oh God, I hope it doesn't suck. I hope people show up, and obviously your event, my event, what you do, you're going for is you just want to make sure that you put out a quality product that people feel that they got what they paid for it. And then at the end of the day, everyone had a good time. And maybe you learned something, maybe you had some fun. And you could do that with either event, right? The 5K, you might learn something. You might learn you hate running, which most of us probably already know.
I don't know
You
how
know,
people run for fun because there's nothing fun about
no. I mean, it's hard to believe that I'm an accomplished marathon runner. And I can tell you right now, you question life choices when you're running a
it.
marathon. All right.
I just want to get to the finish line and have a beer. That's all that matters.
Right. And that's what gets you that motivation. And with our event, every runner's getting over 21 is getting a beer. The first 250 runners are getting a free plate of wings from our good friends Jay at the Dew Drop. There's so many opportunities here. And again, your event, we're going to do a raffle. You're going to have vendors. They're I hate to say they're events, but they're more, and I'm trying to think of the right word. Like it's like a destination. You're going to get there. You're going to have vendors. You're going to have raffle. You're going to have food. One thing we haven't mentioned yet for the pizza aficionados of Connecticut is that inside of Bad Sons Brewery is a satellite Roselands pizza. And for those of you who are not familiar with Roselands, it's a local Derby pizza place. But if you look at that coveted pizza list of Derby or of Connecticut, right? You got Pepe's, Sally's, Modern, Zupardi's. Roselands is a steady fifth on that list of pizza. So they're right there. Again, I mentioned the Dewdrops a couple doors down. So you're gonna have a good time.
Oh, you can't
And
you can't not have a good time when you go to these because again, you're surrounded by the right people. But I am
right,
going to input real quick. I will be the judge of the pizza that night. So you go
that's
remember,
fine.
I
And
grew up on the border of Rhode Island. All right, we eat pizza cold and we have no cheese on it. So we'll see, we'll see. I mean, I've yet to have a
right.
pizza that I didn't like, but we'll see.
Right. What's funny is again, maybe a different topic for conversation another time, but I actually like terrible pizza. Like I'm a fan sometimes of, I want like a horrible, like a Domino's or like a delivery pizza. It's just a sadistic thing that I got going on, but we'll talk about that another time. Another side of you, right? You're published in fire engineering, correct?
My success with writing and teaching is no different than the success that I've been met with Hops and Halligans. It's who you surround yourself with. I can't take credit for H&H. I just had the balls to go out and do it. None of them would have been successful without the presenters that signed on board, the vendors and sponsors, the venues, but the support staff, the people that have been in my corner this whole time, helping organize and run and promote. Like without them, there would be no success. It's yeah, I mean, unfortunately for me, I am the face of it, but like it's not an A-B thing. It's a collaborative effort of all the people that generally love it and enjoy it, and they get something in the end because they're part of making the fire service better. Um, I would rattle off names, but there's far too many to mention. But every person from the start to now who's been in my corner, whether they're still in my corner or they were in my corner or whatever, like I am beyond grateful for everything they've ever done. And it's no different than what luck I've had for, writing and teaching. Um, when I went and got my master's, I reached out to one of my professors and I said, wow, this is wicked cool. You've been teaching me for the last semester here, and I happened to pick up a magazine, and there you are, published author. I said, wow. And he says, AB, he's like, you're no different than I am, but I put myself out there. And it kind of like sat there for a while. I was like, "Oh, he's not wrong." Dan Kerrigan, he's the author of Firefighter Functional Fitness, co-author with Jim Moss. And so I reached out to him. I at that point in time already earned my master's and kind of went on a little bit. And I reached back out and I said, listen, I want to take a jab at this. And he helped me along the way. He really led me in the right direction on, a topic, some editing aspects. And then he also, again, networking goes everywhere. He led me to the right people with fire engineering and it just kind of took off. I've been very fortunate since 15. I've had stuff, pushed and promoted on their social media platforms, published and paid stuff. They actually just, I will give a shout out to Pete Pachillo and the staff at Fire Engineering, because just yesterday they put out a most recent article, short training article that I titled the Halligan hook from the rooftop to RIT operations, and it just goes over 4 very basic functions that you can utilize a Halligan hook for RIT rather than truck company stuff. And nothing I came up with on my own. It's never an A/B thing. It's always something that whether I started as a volunteer in the 90s at 18 in Plainfield or where I work now in City of Middletown for South District. There's always been someone along the way who has taught me something, showed me something, influenced me in one way or another. And it's great because I've learned and I've benefited, but my way of giving back and ensuring that it continues is putting out these articles, putting out these posts, doing these, classes and lectures. Everything that's in there was actually taught to me by other people along the way over the last 25 years. I just happen to be fortunate to be the one that's regurgitating it and getting it out on paper. But again, that level of success would not be where it's at if it wasn't for networking and having the right people in your corner. Again, I
Oh,
made the
absolutely. And
previous joke about surrounding yourselves with negativity. Like you surround yourself with jackwagons around the coffee table at the firehouse, you're going to become a jackwagon. You're going to sit there,
right.
you're going to talk shit, you're going to hate your job, you're going to do the bare minimum, blah blah blah. When you surround yourself by these positive people who want to be better, do better, you're only going to become better.
And you're right about that. And it's funny you mentioned that about having the guts to be out there and it. I always tell everybody, people ask me, oh, you have no problems teaching, but there is that terrifying moment, right? It's usually about 5 to 10 minutes before you start, right? Like because you got that intimidation factor. Like you're set up, you got your PowerPoint ready to go, you're playing your script in your mind, and students are coming into the room one by one, and it's like you're sizing everybody up, they're sizing you up. The one of the first times I presented at the Fire EMS Expo and Fire EMS Pro in Foxwoods, and it was like it was like a reverse intimidation because, to be honest, right around the corner from me is Nick Esposito presenting, and down the hall is Jason Rivera, and it's like you're nervous about this because it's like you said, like, am I on this level? Am I, you start to, at that point, you almost start to question your entire, like, is this going to be
Guys all
terrible?
started in the same place though, and then they're
Right.
fortunate that FDIC took a chance on them. Now they're part of the syndicate and they're going all over the
Right.
place. Again, you're no different. They're no better. They put themselves out there and they were successful. And
Right.
you just got to keep plugging, plugging, plugging. We were talking on sidebar earlier about the opportunities that networking provides for you. I do an interview with Jeremy on National Fire Radio. I'm up in Wells, Maine a month later at a Fools conference, and some guy says, "Hey, AB," and I'm like, what? Hey, I heard listen to your podcast, this, that, this, that, this, that. They invite me to come be one of the presenters at their safety and survival conference in Canton, Mass. That just happened last week. Like, I would have never been given that opportunity to present this training if it wasn't for the opportunity that Jeremy gave me, put my name out there. And then, 3, 4 states away, I ended up meeting the guy. He brings me down 2 states away. I mean, it's incredible how this stuff has that effect. Um, you want to talk about intimidating factor though, but again, here I am, and you mentioned Plofkin earlier, and I've quoted him on another podcast, but he's right. Like the 20-mile radius in a suitcase. I could go to work tomorrow and I can teach the 8-step process for hazmat, and people are like, "Dude, this guy's a fucking idiot." Like no one cares. We all know him because we've seen him at a wedding, we've seen him at a bar, we've seen, you see me on my outside elements, right? Um, they've shared bunk rooms with me. But I travel 20 miles away with a suitcase and that 8-step process. It's like, holy shit, this guy's a god. Well, no, it's just you have a different perspective of me because you're holding me to a higher standard because you brought me in as an outside person. And
Oh,
I was kind
absolutely. And
of on
I,
edge going there. Like I'm up there with Danny Rinaldi, who's well established, has a great story to offer. Pat Smith and Joe Minehan, both New England Fools. Like these guys are very reputable with what they teach and what they do. And now you're kind of throwing AB in this mix on this roster. I'm like, oh man, like I was flabbergasted to be part of that cadre. But at the end of the day, like we're all there for the same purpose and we're all there delivering the same material. And it was phenomenal. And that edge went away when I witnessed the first person pick up their cell phone and take a picture of a slide. And that's when I said, you know what? The 75 people in attendance, if 74 of them don't give a shit, but that one person cared enough to take a picture and they bring it back to their respective departments, I did my job. And that fear goes away, you know? You got to have thick skin. And that's a lesson learned. That's something I had to learn, whether it was starting new where I'm at, taking a promotion, putting that article out there. Like you have to have thick skin because you are going to get critics. I have critics for everything I do, and I don't care. All it is fuel and motivation to keep driving. And at the end of the day, if they're watching and they're shit talking you, they're still watching. So I don't care. But my goal and my job is to have an impact and influence at least one person. And if that impact and influence helps them be successful and they go home at the end of the day from the job, I don't care about the haters. I don't care at all. Keep coming because I'm not going anywhere.
oh no, and it's
AB's
funny.
here to
It's funny.
stay, though.
It's funny what you say because, like, in my presentation of my volley chief class, I talk about the benefits of bringing in outside training, and like I always say, like, if you take the metropolis of Derby Fire Department, I mean, I have some big heavy hitters, right? That I have in the training cadre. My brother's a deputy chief in Greenwich. I got Ryan Hart from Norwalk. I got Louis Olive from New Haven's one of the chiefs in Derby. He's on the rescue there. Matt Thomas is lieutenant in Haven. I have Danny Mascola from Westport. I have some big, like I could pull guys in that belong to the department. But if I pull one of them in to teach, a ground ladder class, within 5 minutes of the class start, and someone's throwing a paper airplane,
Absolutely.
right, and it's all because, like you said, we all grew up together. But now I bring in, this ladder guru, Nick Esposito from the big city of Bridgeport, Connecticut. And
Position,
it's
don't
like
park.
guys sit there, right? Position don't park. Guys sit there and in awe that you're bringing in this other guy who's effectively teaching the same thing, but like you said, he's got a little bit of street credit. I'm trying not to break out laughing because with the position don't park, because what just popped in my mind was we made a parody one time at work of of truck tactics, and instead of truck tactics we had light tower tactics,
Oh,
and
gee.
we would make fake social media posts with the hashtag illuminate, don't light.
Oh God,
and,
love
and
it.
and Nick, he's very serious. And I hit him with the fire Yoda all the time. I have that picture of Yoda wearing his turnout gear. And like every time he posts on the internet, I'm right there firing it in. And it's like, I derailed laughing thinking about that. And it is though. It's you bring in, one of the best decisions we made in Derby towards the end of my chief time was we actually went out to bid and we solicited bids from training companies. And we said, look, we want 12, training events, 8 or 10, Thursday nights and 2 weekday training events. And, we took bids, I think from 4 or 5 companies all bid. And then, the problem being with Louis and I both being in the chief ranks, we thought it wasn't a good idea for us to be involved in awarding the bids and everything because, of me being in Bridgeport with Pete and his company, and then Louis being in New Haven with Jason and their company. So we turfed it down. We actually pushed it down to the company officers, and they selected one of the companies, one of the vendors, and it worked out great because it took a huge thing off of our plate. Like we knew for our monthly department drill, we didn't have to worry about it. Somebody was coming in, it was an outside guy. And I try to tell everyone that's a great way to boost your training is outside vendors. And the circuit, guys like us, we're not that expensive. We're not looking, like you said, a lot of us aren't in it to make money. A lot of us are in it because we want to share our knowledge. I've told the story myself, like you said 100 times. I kind of got bullied into this by guys where they were, we developed the chief's aide rank and actually ran training programs for our volunteers in our area on how to run a command post, but from the aide side, not from the incident commander side. And we brought back some members that were kind of too physically old. The things about volunteer firefighting is that you do have, right, you try not to end up on HIFTY, but you do have people that are not there to be firemen, right? They belong to a volunteer fire department. It's a reality you have to face, and you got to find a spot for them. And
Everyone
it's like
has a
this is
strength, and everyone has something
right. And
capitalize on.
it's like, and that's kind of how my thing evolved. And like you said, it evolves and it gets bigger. And I think what hit me recently was I was picking my daughter up from school, and I've seen her janitor at her elementary school. He's got a license plate from a fire department on it on the front of his pickup. So like like occasional wave, like okay, I'm picking my daughter up in my my chief's vehicle, so I know he's a fireman. He knows I'm a fireman. And I was walking out of school, and he says, "Hey, I just want to tell you something." I was like, "What?" He's like, "I love the podcast. I listen all the time." I kind of laughed. I was like, "Oh, cool! That's so awesome!" That like you said, you see that you affect people, and I went and taught one of the classes, uh, out in the eastern part of Connecticut, and a couple weeks after I taught it, I got an email from from them, just thanking me and following up and everything we were emailing. And I got some amazing feedback. And basically they had a fire the next day. And he said that they, knowing what I gave them and what I talked about, and then seeing how they operated and what if using my methods, how it would benefit them. And it was like you said, you almost get like, like wow, like I did this, and it's a great boost. And I think that's the one thing that guys like us are out there doing, and it's great for the fire service. It's great, for our corners of it, and we're all. A lot of people have a competition complex, right? Like I'd see you out somewhere and be like, oh, there's a B. He does it too, and But I never felt that way. I feel like we're all in it together, and that's the
It
best
can't
way,
be
I
a
guess.
competition because if you're in it for
Yeah,
your own
no,
personal gain,
no.
you're in it for the wrong reasons. Talk about like compensation. You're in it for the wrong reasons if it's a money thing.
Right.
You want to know what I charge to come out and talk for an hour and a half? Feed me. That's all I care about.
Well,
Every
it's
presenter
with
from the
my
can
size, that might take a little bit.
that'll make you broke. Well,
Yes.
I mentioned the Canton Safety and Survival Conference last week, the local 1580. Every single presenter didn't want anything. Whatever you're going to pay us, donate that towards the cause. because
Right.
they brought us in for a purpose, and the event itself had a purpose. So let's not take away from that external cause. We just want to share our message. And that's really all it should be, whether it's a podcast, hosting an event, or giving a training. Like, don't go broke, take care of yourself. But in the end, remember why you're doing it. You're not doing it for
Right.
yourself. And everything I can honestly say, everything I do for the fire service is not about AB. It's about bettering it. And that's why I constantly got to give credit where credit's due, because I would, let's be talking about volunteer side real quick. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for my volunteer service.
Right.
Every aspect of education and experience that I got prior to getting on the job came from a volunteer side. I I I miss volunteering. It's not at my own doing that I don't. And I definitely guarantee I'll be back in it very shortly. Um, I don't frown upon it. I don't look down on it. I think it's a great noble thing. I think most people need to realize that. Um, talking about I'm getting a little sidetracked here. Sorry. It's been a
That's
long
all
night,
right. No, no, no.
but but these are the things, like, you don't do it for yourself, you do it for the community, you do it for the department, you do it for the job function. And once you start doing it for the wrong reasons, you start doing it for yourself and your own outcome and your own benefit, it's you're just gonna fail, because eventually that comes back. People can see right through that. People can see right through that, and it's unfortunate. And I even had a hard time when I first started. I'm at the point now with Hops and Halligans where people approach us and say, "Hey, how can we be a part of this?" But initially, I had to research people, and it's you know, it's like you're slapping them in the face when you're like, "Well, we're trying to raise money for this. I can get you a hotel, I can pay you this, but I got to cover this." And they're like, "Yeah, no, I want to make it." Like, "Well, this isn't a secondary mean of income for you. Like, are you
Right.
doing
Right.
this
This is
because you care and have a passion, or what are you trying to do? Retire early?" Unfortunately, some people, they have a reputation and they can capitalize on that for a short period of time. After that, though, it's gonna wash up. Like, get out there, get your message across, be humble, do the right thing, take care of yourself, but, like, do it for the right reasons, man.
yeah. So hey, we're hitting a half hour, which is it's actually longer than my normal. We're just rolling here, but
Well, don't
so I
forget,
guess
I
we'll.
also am unmedicated ADHD, so this can turn into tomorrow if you want.
So I guess give us your wrap up. Give us the pitch for the event. Give me a good ending. How's that?
All right, let's see, what do we got? What do we got? What do we got? So, coming to you in November 13th, which is a Wednesday, we're going to be coming down to Derby. Jeremy Donch is coming in from National Fire Radio. He's going to be presenting his Bridging the Gap program. It's going to be a phenomenal evening of beer, brotherhood, and burgers. No, I'm just kidding. We got pizza. Claimed to be number 5 in the Connecticut state. We'll see. But in the end, ultimately, it's about raising money for the Storm Ambulance Company. It's their 75th anniversary, 75 years of residents from Derby giving back to their community by providing that service. Again, volunteer organization that does it on their own time, their own dime, away from their other jobs. It's going to be a phenomenal night. I really look forward to meeting people from all across the area. I'm excited to go to the Valley. My career chief is from the Valley. I've been hearing about it for a while. Haven't experienced it. I grew up in the armpit of Eastern Connecticut here, so I'm looking forward to the night, and I really hope that it just creates more relationships and networking for what's going to come in 2025 for all of us. Um, just for everybody out there listening, everybody that tunes into the Volley Chief Show, everybody that comes to the Hops and Halligans events, everybody that's reading fire engineering, whatever. Just stay the course, man. Stay true to yourself. Keep doing what you're doing for the right reasons, and every day put in the effort to make the job better for you and those around you. It's basically the gist of it for AB here.
All right, AB. Well, thank you very much. It was obviously we're going to be talking about this more as it gets closer. And then
Absolutely.
I'm going to remind everyone too, while I got you here, the ambulance driver 5K road race, July 10th, again at Bad Sons, another night.
I'll
There's a
be there.
link below in the description. So yes, AB will be there. So thank you, pal, and have a good night.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity, brother. We'll talk soon, and be safe.
FD1's back in service. Commands terminated.